Welcome back to the Game Collection. I am SuperDerek, and this is Persona 3: The Answer. The Answer is a notoriously difficult second campaign for Persona 3 that is included with Persona 3 FES. It was intended to shed some light on the aftermath of Persona 3 and clear up some of the mysteries surrounding the ending. But the prospect of another 30-hour investment into an even more difficult campaign has fans wondering, is The Answer worth playing? A question that I'll try to help you answer. The Answer assumes that you have finished playing through Persona 3, and for the purpose of this review, so will I. But here's a button you can use to skip past spoilers if you would still just like to know whether or not this should be a factor in your choice between Persona 3 FES and Persona 3 Portable. Go ahead and click it, I'll wait for you. I'm not really sure how I felt about the ending of Persona 3. It's been over a week since I finished it. I was hoping, after mulling it over for a bit, I could come to terms with the death of my character, but that hasn't happened yet. Maybe I'm just a softie, but I'm a fan of happy endings, and Persona 3 felt like anything but. The game spells it out for us that he discovered the answer to the question of life, and that answer was death. Using the power of that answer, he was somehow able to stop Nyx from destroying the world, but then died a few short weeks later. How exactly that was, though, this game intends to answer. In The Answer, the remaining party members from the Nyx Annihilation team have started growing apart and are dealing with their own feelings of confusion and loss. Aigis has requested to go back to the laboratory, and the team are relinquishing their evokers as they prepare to move out of the dorm. It seems as though the main character was the linchpin that held everyone together, and with him gone, everything's just falling apart. Set the stage for catastrophe. As the clock strikes midnight on their final night at the dorm, on March 31st, the team finds themselves stuck inside the dorm, unable to leave. To make matters even weirder, everything seems to indicate that March 31st is starting all over again. Then, without warning, an anti-shadow weapon bursts out of the floor and starts going wild. This is Metis, and apparently she's Aigis' sister, and she just so happens to know a thing or two about what's going on. After finally being subdued, she informs the team that they're stuck in a time loop, and the only way to escape it is to get rid of the Abyss of Time. In The Answer, you play as Aigis from Persona 3, and you lead your group of friends through the Abyss of Time, a massive root system of dungeon corridors that happens to be the game's analog to Tartarus. And when I say analog, I mean that it's pretty much the exact same thing. It's Tartarus, just upside down. Randomly generated floors with randomly dispersed loot, same as before. Only now, things have been made a little bit harder in a couple of ways. Enemies have now been grouped together in such a way so as to make it harder to take out groups of enemies in a single move. So, for instance, in a group of enemies weak to fire, you'll also probably have an enemy or two that might absorb fire spells, that kind of thing. And this applies doubly so for boss battles. Boss battles are made tougher still because every boss that you fight that has a weakness to exploit also has skills to dodge that element of magic, which means a lot of wasted turns and skill points. And really, these seemingly small changes are what make up most of the big jump in difficulty. I should probably also further clarify that when I say difficulty, I really only mean tedium. Even when I died, I never felt like I could or should have gone back and done anything differently in order to succeed. I only needed to roll those dice a couple dozen more times in order to get the luck to finally land in my favor. This aspect was largely due to that dodge skill that every boss seemed to have. That's not to say that it wasn't frustrating though. Persona 3 made me rage quit a few times, sure, but The Answer had me seriously contemplating whether or not I actually wanted to follow through with this review. The things I put up with for you guys. Something else worth mentioning is that there's nothing beyond the Abyss of Time to hold your attention. There's no calendar system, no social links, and no secret dungeons. There's nothing worth your time beyond the Abyss of Time. And that means that the answer is missing what is easily the better half of Persona 3, and everything in the needs work column part of Persona 3 is cranked up to 11. And speaking of things that need work, the game dialogue also has a serious case of him syndrome. Since you can change the character's name in Persona 3 to whatever you want, the game will refer to the main character from Persona 3 as he, him, they, and so on. And when you notice it, it starts to scream at you that they're not saying his name. It becomes distracting even. I mean, come on, my character's name was Derek, not Voldemort. Just call him something, like maybe Minato from the manga, or I don't know, something. I do, however, have to give this game some props for one thing that they improved upon, even if only a little. The Abyss of Time, while still very monotonous, at least has the decency to change up the floor designs every 5 to 10 floors or so, rather than every 30 to 60. I also felt like the floor areas were slightly more inspired than Persona 3, but only just. And now here's my answer to the question of whether or not the answer is worth playing. No, I would say not. Even if it weren't for the frustration of living and dying by the roll of a pair of dice, even if there were some distraction beyond the Abyss of Time to hold your attention, and even if it gave me an ending that I could go home happy with, I'd still say no. It's not worth playing because if you're playing the answer, you probably loved Persona 3, and I wouldn't want this game's portrayal of your team members to stain your memory of them. This is the real heart of the problem for me. I spent 90 hours playing Persona 3, and maybe a quarter of that was spent interacting with my party, getting to know them, and seeing what the answer did to their characters was even more frustrating than even a couple of the bosses. I couldn't help but feel like the writer of the dialogue for the answer read the Cliff's Notes version of Persona 3 and figured, that's good enough. But in the end, it wasn't. My recommendation to you is to play Persona 3 however you like. Then, if you're really curious about the ending, watch some cutscenes on YouTube or something. Persona 3 was great, but the answer is just not worth it.